And I
Nope.
have not worked in a lot of other esports to the point that I know what it's like elsewhere, but I will say I've spent a lot of time making a lot of free content that very few people gave a shit about, and it does get frustrating. And I wonder, it's almost like the Dota talent are like afraid of their fans instead of excited by their fans. Reddit isn't a
Yeah.
place that you go to have a discussion. It's a place where you go to pucker your butthole and hope that today's the day that you don't get canceled. And
Yeah.
it's this revolving door of hot potato of, well, somebody's getting canceled today, and I'm just going to shut the fuck up and see
I
where the
mean,
cards fall.
yeah, you literally what I've observed about Dota talent is it's basically like you almost don't have any interactivity with the community whatsoever. That's considered like quite a bad idea. Like Slacks is probably one of the few people I think that's kind of got like immune to it because we all know Slacks is a cunt in a game. Right, like he's not even going to mind me saying
Yeah.
that, right? Which, by the way, that's one of the cardinal fucking sins that you could commit. He gets tilted, he fucking flames people, and he's just out there. By the way, I'm the same. Like we're just out there in fucking solo queuing into randoms, calling them cunts. Like I mean, we're just out there doing that, right? And because Slacks is like this person, but because everyone knows it now, he kind of gets away with it, and he's always been a quirky personality or whatever. And he'll come on Reddit when someone makes a thread. I just played with Slacks, and he griefed, and yeah, right? And he'll just come into the chat going, "Yeah, you're a dickhead. Now what?" Right? And I love that, right? It's one of the reasons I love him. I always fuck with Slacks, like. But most Dota talent don't get to do that. In fact, they are terrified of the fans because if you ever fall into that, I mean, you've seen it during TI. Right, you've seen it when there are members of the talent pool that aren't particularly well liked or aren't well respected. And I've seen this historically, bizarrely, often with women. I have noticed. Not saying there's a higher concentration of incels in the Dota community, but spoiler, there's a higher concentration of incels in the Dota community. So
It's the most neckbeard community for sure.
I mean, listen, if ever you were going to turn over rocks and find incels, like it's going to be around this game, isn't it? So anyway, they've like I've seen it. I've seen like people like Moxie get like viciously fucking torn apart, and what they did to Frankie. Frankie comes in as an outsider, host TI. She's been asked to be there. And again, because you have to kiss the fucking feet of this ridiculous community with the most entitled babies I've ever seen in any video game. She literally, for like 9 months before she went to even do the event, she was like queuing with like Purge and day and night, like playing Dota to learn the game for a role that requires you to have zero game knowledge. And she asked one player, I think it was a Team Spirit player, she asked one player one question that people who don't even speak proper English were fucking deliberately warping their minds to interpret it as being rude. It was just a cheeky question, classic Frankie style. And because she pushed the coach, I think it was, of Team Spirit a little bit to get an answer, they all turned around to basically attack the fucking pregnant woman relentlessly for days, saying she shouldn't be hired, saying she's a garbage person, she has no place in Dota, and all of this other stuff. And it's just like every time something like that happens, and it happens every big Dota event, every TI, they always latch on to one person about why they're shit, why they shouldn't be there, why is B Cop not been hired over this person, however they frame it, right? The talent are always looking at that going, well, I don't want it to be me. I don't want it to be me. And so you get to a desk and then you go, well, hey, so listen, that was a terrible draft, right? They totally shit the bed. They fucked it up, and now they're out the tournament. Well, that's not what happens, sir. Because if you look at it through their eyes, actually, it was a good pick, but it wasn't well executed. In fact, no, I mean it was well executed, but these things happen. Teams just lose in the moment. Anyone can win on the day. That's Dota. Am I right, guys? Am I right? And it's like watching a fucking ISIS hostage fucking video and not a death segment. They are fucking terrified. The fans are treating me well, and all the players are really, really good at the game. Can I go to the TI, please? I fucking feel so sorry for them because they live in like some insane panopticon, and it's just not fair.
By the way, I even use that example of Frankie to show how insane the double standard is. Because you're right, Richard. It is one of it's that flirting harassment meme where the exact same thing done by someone else is unacceptable. Then it's fine otherwise. Like the obvious one is, so Frankie's role was fucking stage host / interviewer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, in theory, interviewer requires some knowledge of the game. The reason I bring that up is, who was the most famous person who did that role at TI before? A literal fucking news anchor from the local TV station, who, by the way, I even made a joke about this because I actually thought it was mad. Dude, years later, she was implying, I might even play the game one day after she'd done about 30 TIs in a row or something, right? So she's doing all these TIs. By the way, because she never ever gave any illusion she was some top, she was universally loved, embraced, people begged for her to come back. Frankie, an actual top professional who's worked, by the way, on the BBC, etc., way bigger than local TV, by the way, and had done all the other big esports games like Majors, League of Legends, she can't even actually buckle down and learn the game and ask a question. That's considered why is she in the game? But it's the same fucking job. That to me, that was a mad one because essentially I can't think what possible reason, aside from the fact she's our own with Casey or whatever, would apply to her that wouldn't apply to Frankie. Surely Frankie's an even better, more qualified person.
That was literally it.
Sorry, go on, sorry.
Literally touched on it. It was Casey is a normal news anchor that latches onto Dota. She's one of ours. We broke her into Dota. This is a normie, and now she's a Dota person. Frankie, she plays that other game. You want to come into our game? You're a poser by default until you prove it otherwise. And proving it otherwise means basically being a 9K MMR fucking immortal level pro player that knows every single thing as everyone else that's on the stage. It's a ridiculous double standard, but it goes back to the tribalism that I'm so obsessed with. These Dota people are just tribalists at heart. If they see you as part of Dota tribe, they love you unequivocally no matter what the fuck you do. If they see you as part of another tribe, you have to grovel and kiss the ring, kiss the shoes, and then they might maybe give you a chance and make up their mind later. That's how this community sees itself.
Yeah, you have to pander. I mean, that's more than any other esports community. You must pander to this fan base, and if they despise you for whatever reason, you've got two choices. You can either just own it and be like, right, well, fuck you. You don't like me. Guess what? I don't like fucking weirdo neckbeards who post anonymously on Reddit and harass women. I don't like you either.
Do you remember when Fnatic switched from Heroes of Newerth to Dota 2? Yeah. Oh, by the way, Fnatic, the team that became OG, the two-time winners that were the poster boys of Dota 2, when they switched from Han to Dota 2, the rhetoric around them was absurd. The ridiculous, the sellouts, the guys that are just hopping onto the latest. I mean, there was so much vitriol against them, and then they swung it the other way to become the best players ever. But if you think about the ridiculousness of that system, of these guys that are playing basically the exact same game and then switching over to this one, that is the least drama-fueled thing in the world. It's just gamers moving on to the next big thing. And it took them winning 2 TIs to really shift that narrative. I mean, it took a lot of time, but even the heroes
and when you consider players. When you consider players have a much easier time of it in the community because obviously there's the aspirational element and pleb esports fans just self-insert themselves anyway. And he like me, for real. If I had all the time to grind, I would be as good as that. Yeah, yes. And also, he's a little bit socially awkward, isn't he? And that is like me, for real. So, there's always this fucking self-insert thing going on with pleb esports fans. So players always get away with more and, and that's fine. In a sport, if you're going to idolize anyone, definitely idolize the players. That makes sense. But I'll say the other thing you're supposed to do is if you don't want to be like the fucking I'll take the licks on Reddit and maybe I don't go to all the tournaments and maybe Valve noticed that and I don't go to TI. Very few people are like that. I mean, again, there's a handful of people that have even had what I would consider edgy personas in Dota, and a lot of them don't even work now. But the other thing I think you're supposed to do is, thank you, sir, may I have another? Thank you, sir, may I have another? And if you do that for about 3 or 4 years, eventually I just can't even beat you anymore. Like, I'm fucking all right. You are one of us now. You've earned your right to come into the fold. Like some insane, long, drawn out, Masonic.
It's like reverse Stockholm syndrome. Like eventually you just get to join the robbers gang after being there hostage for long enough. Like, what the fuck?
They did that. I mean, like, listen, you know, all joking aside, right? I think about how beloved Shiva, rightly so, by the way. She's fantastically talented. She's a wonderful human being. And I think how beloved she is by the community now. And then I contrast that because I was there at the start when Shiva was coming through and, you know, she used to stream and used to play. And then obviously started getting picked up for broadcast work. The abuse she got is like, despicable. It's some of the worst I've ever seen on the internet. Like, so,
Richard, you're so unbelievably right. People don't even realize now because she's idolized as, oh, this is like the Dota queen, right? Shiva has ascended to this next level. People forget about what the past was. In 2014, we're talking about Star Ladder. There was a point in 2014 where there were more competitive Dota matches happening on any given day than there were commentators to cover them. Right.
Yeah,
there was this golden, like the gold rush of Dota 2. And Shiva and I were two of the like tier 3 commentators that were like, okay, we're at home. We have nothing else to do. We believe in this. Let's just turn on the Twitch stream and broadcast whatever the fuck is on today. The latest Star Ladder season 6 matches that nobody cares about, because it was the only thing that you could do and no one was covering it. So it was actually like providing a service to the community. And I remember both of us just being absolutely ripped apart and compared in this really unfair way, and this like Sayori versus Shiva. And it's like, wait, we don't even feel a rivalry. We're just two regular people that are underemployed that see the opportunity here. And it took her years and years and years of just like almost, I mean, forgive me if this is a fucked up analogy, but I would say like Jackie Robinson style levels of just letting it deflect, just ignore, and just proving to the world that she's fucking good, that she's fucking engaged, and that she loves the game, understands the game, and has a passion for her work. It's a shame that it took half a decade worth of effort for people to recognize that. It's absolutely disgusting.
But the really gross part is like the community then turn around and say, well, that never happened. We didn't abuse her for 5 years. We always loved her. She was always one of us. She's one of our own. We always love our own in the Dota community. No, complete bullshit. That's why you're different to almost every other esports fan base, actually. This is why you're one of the worst. Because the only thing you really do care about is your little fucking wizard hats and your battle passes and giving money to fucking Daddy Valve and because the culture there has been everything they complain about, the fans get, and they get it quicker than any other esports fan base anywhere. I mean, worse than even League of Legends, where Riot are constantly scanning the subreddit. You complain about something in a game, it gets fucking fixed that night. In Valve terms. And so obviously they get used to this idea of, well, this is our game and we get to dictate who can and can't be in it. It's one big episode of Big Brother and we're holding the fucking voting button. And so they do it to broadcast talent. They absolutely fucking needle them, safe in the knowledge that actually it probably does move the dial in the opinion of Valve. You know, it shouldn't, but maybe it does. And so on and on and on it goes. And it's just this talent gauntlet. I watched it again with Moxie, and by the way, at the last like TI she worked, there was all these threads going, you know, it was on the cusp of just turning, you know, maybe we have been too harsh to her. Like, I saw some of the most vile abuse. And it's like, listen, you can think, by the way, some commentators are indeed better than others. But what the case you can't make is somebody is so grotesquely incompetent, they don't belong there when they're regularly doing S-tier work. It doesn't hold up. What, like nobody else in the industry can see what only you, a fucking Reddit pleb who has never worked in entertainment, esports, probably just never fucking worked, full fucking stop, never had a job, knows nothing about that dynamic. Only you can see that this person is terrible, incompetent, irredeemably so. But everyone else, their colleagues, the people making the hiring, they can't, right? You figured it out. And so that, honestly, in Dota, it is insane. I've only done like 2 Dota events, I think, in my time, if memory serves me correct. And both times I watched talent I was working with getting fucking wrecked. And this wasn't even TI. So I get it. I understand the position they're in. It's like more than any other set of talent, they're really beset upon from all sides. We've got functional monopolies, or we did have, that's kind of come out now with the emergence of Blast and PGL. You've got fans that absolutely fucking rake you over the coals for minor mistakes, or even just don't like your voice. Nothing I can do about it. It's my voice. What about the content of what I'm saying? Nah, I just fucking hate your voice. I hate your voice. I hate your face. Fuck you. Right? I don't think you should be hired. You shouldn't be allowed in this ecosystem. And on top of that, while they talk about, man, Dota's dying, what should we do? How are we going to grow this game? When people from outside come in and go, hey, can I work? Fuck off, you. Fuck off, outsider. Go away. It's insane. It's like like you're gonna have to grow the population a little bit, guys. You gotta let the normies come and at least peek round the fucking curtain. You can't just spit in their face as soon as they do that. But that's just the Dota community in a nutshell.
They have so much more in common with 4chan than they will ever realize. It's one of the greatest ironies of gaming. I mean, Dota is a very old game, just like Counter-Strike, and we have some deep cuts that go with like internet culture. I mean, there's this really weird irony to me that a lot of people will have you believe that gaming and esports is the most toxic place on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. And when I came out as a cross-dresser in 2020, I actually found that like esports and gaming was one of the nicest places. It was the real world where people gawked at me and made passing comments and made me feel less than. I actually felt okay on Reddit. Yeah, of course, people are taking shots in Twitch chat, but the people that mattered, like when I came out, I actually got more gigs than I did before because people would, like organizers and people that could hire me would say, we can sense your confidence. Like, dude, you talk different now. Like, it seems like you are actually being yourself and it's resonating, and there's like something powerful about that, about being afraid to sort of show your true colors to the world because you don't know how this industry that you work in and care about is going to judge you. And then having the people in the industry that actually write the checks and give you the gigs largely support you and say, hey, that's cool, man. We're not worried about Twitch chat. We know that you're good and it's cool and they're going to have some laughs. If you're good, we're good. That was like really powerful, dude. Like Dota Pit in Croatia. I don't associate Croatia with ultra progressive, gender stuff. But when I came out, they were very like, dude, we want to hire you. It's super cool you did that. We stand by you. It's awesome. And they didn't want to make a big PR statement about it, but just to say that in the DMs, that really mattered and carried weight. So there is this weird juxtaposition where while it's like gaming is aggro and vile at times, I wonder how much of that is just competition and the internet and the human condition and not just esports in a vacuum. Because when you separate out that other shit and talk about the real esports people, almost all of them could care less about, oh, dude, you're wearing a dress. Who gives a fuck?
I mean, this is it's a tangent, but it's an interesting one. And I will say that this is part of the problem with the conflation of esports with the general gaming population, which is that, in my opinion, the esports industry, as in the professional industry, has always been very accepting of people. And it's like people will say like, oh, well, the people on the ladder, or the competitive gamers, are being toxic towards X group, or like the fans are saying one thing, but that isn't the esports industry, right? Like you're saying, the people who sign the checks, in my experience and in the experience of basically everybody else that I've ever worked with, as far as industries goes, ours is quite a progressive one.
It was. Before our new overlords arrived.
It's the first half of the episode. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
which is why we're pissed, by the way.
The important thing, guys, if you're really disappointed with the direction the esports industry has gone, understand you have a voice and there are conversations happening and there's progress being made, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing as well. I mean, like, to tie the two incongruous halves of the show together, I mean, the fans have got to make more noise about this stuff. I think it's kind of staggering to me that I've just come off another fucking Passion of the Richard, 5 days of being publicly flogged in the streets for saying Stewie 2K playing a 0.88 rating proves that he's not good enough for tier 1 CS and probably never will be ever again at the age of 26, right? Which is all just very mild, reasonable analytical statements, right?
A pretty cold take, honestly.
They've fucking been calling the university a workout, all sorts of fucked up shit, death threats over that. It's like, guys, where's the energy for the Saudi stuff? Like, how in the Dota community can you let your entire circuit be captured right, as a sports washing exercise. And literally, if you go and look at the average thread about sports washing in the Dota fans go, yeah, but you know, if the Saudis weren't here, Dota would die, so I don't care. And you go, oh, I mean, like, the Dota fan base is really
It also
comfortable with
wouldn't
it.
die, to be clear. Like, that's the whole thing
Sure.
about, basically, like, esports ain't gonna die, guys, if the Saudis don't come in. Sure, it might go down. We might see lesser production quality, but it certainly can be profitable in a normal ass way, right? It can be. It's just that the stakeholders, basically, the stakeholders have to, all of the teams that got all of this investment are expecting a certain valuation. And if they go backwards in that process, then their boards get very angry, right? The boards, the venture capital companies that invested in them, the individual family funds that invested, the Saudi government gets angry at ESL because they just spent $1 billion merging ESL and Face It in order to, maintain value in the industry. So it's not that esports would die if the Saudis went away. It's that, sure, we might have to go back to more grassroots shit, but most of us who are here for the grassroots shit in the first place kind of prefer that, honestly.
By the way, that's also
having
the
a
dirty
fake ass bubble.
That's also the dirty sort of like conceptual game of sleight of hand they're playing. It's always that when they have to take the blood money, they're always Aladdin stealing a loaf of bread for their starving family, which, by the way, ironically, is a great analogy because it's actually about how incredibly harsh the criminal system is in the Middle East in a vague setting. So kind of an applicable case there. But yeah, I agree with you, Monty. They always make it like literally if they don't take this money to they're shuttering the doors of everything and like the whole thing's over. Whereas like the whole reason why you can't ever say that to people on this show is we did, as like when Diori said they made 30k a year. I had years where I did 80 hours a week and I made, I think, like 11,000 euros a year. And that was without any benefits. I was a freelancer. Like literally, this is like, that's like almost poverty level if people don't understand once you add in all the costs of your insurance and health, all the other shit you have to add in. So like, we already know that you can have esports without these things at a smaller scale. The real problem, and here's the irony of the term progress being thrown around, because there's another one of the nonsense terms in esports, right? Progress is almost as bad as fucking sustainability. I know sustainability just means I need a really big bag. It never means anything has to sustain, which is what the fucking word means. So in the same sense, progress just means things are changing, but I'll infer that always means in a good way. Like, what I don't understand is, progress means it could go backwards, right? Like, it could go in a direction you don't want. So, I will say, I think that part is bullshit. So, most people, when they complain about this topic, don't really mean Monty. But I'll have to quit and go. What they mean is, I won't be riding a Lamborghini anymore. I'll just be driving a Ford Focus like you or a normal human being, or a pleb mortal,
Or maybe I might have to go get a job that isn't in video games, which is like part of the patheticness of this is that people do insane mental gymnastics to maintain their space in this industry because they are deathly afraid of having, like, they either have kind of wasted their time and that they have not developed any other skills that are applicable to anything outside of their own niche, which is kind of like a personal failing and pathetic in its own right, and just frankly a mismanagement of one's own career. But they don't want to. It's like, well, I had morals that I was willing to stand up for on social media up until the point where I might have to go find a job that isn't in, I guess
literally just had a long interaction
video games
with people at Team Liquid doing the exact same shit. I mean, just a wholesale embarrassing response from a lot of Team Liquid workers. Like some dog shit Twitter account with like 2,000 followers tweeted something like, I actually think it's like Robin Hood. You're taking from the Saudis and
it's
they're putting it into pride
They're
causes.
paying you for a service, a PR service.
By the way, it's also telling that they also went
Team
to like a
Liquid
Disney
stuff like
cartoon or something. They just went Robin Hood instead of Aladdin for that one. So I guess they're more old school than I am.
They scoured all the Harry Potter books for an example, but there just wasn't one that was applicable, So, but anyway, so, and it was like that Josie Brown as well, the Hulu executive. This is somebody, by the way, who, when we're working at Hulu in the Culture Lab, they're doing videos about Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how she's a feminist icon, someone who absolutely couldn't exist in Saudi Arabian culture. They did a documentary / activist thing where it was like, did you know there's fewer statues of female historical figures in America than there are of men. Well, we're going to change all that. Well, let me
How
tell you
many
about
how many statues of women are there in Saudi
yeah,
Arabia?
let me tell you about a culture that doesn't exactly lionize women. You might have heard of them. They're at the bottom of your fucking pay stub, you fucking moron. And this is what I mean. It's like if you put fucking geographical limitations on your principles, they're just not. And that's the biggest.
My
fucking...
morals are geo-fenced, Richard.
Yeah, like literally, like. So hang on, is it okay to say gay rights in this country? Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm fucking more gay rights then. Yeah, I'm the most gay rights ever.
They operate on the exact thing we use as to why people should get a VPN. It's like in different regions you can access different types of content.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it turns out
apparently,
in different regions.
I don't want to back. This is funny, but I don't want to backslide into this. I want to talk about the conversation, like reframe it around the caster stuff, because like this stuff isn't going away, and like the reality.
Sure.
If you are thinking about being a caster or currently a caster, if you're currently a caster, you should be getting the fuck out as fast as you can.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.